All right, what's going on, everybody? So I just got back from watching X Men: The Dark Phoenix, and I I can't defend this. I can't defend this. So usually when I go into movies like this that are kind of divisive, I try my best not to watch reviews and stuff, not to go on Rotten Tomatoes, even though, I've always said I don't really care what the critics say. I definitely don't really go off of Rotten Tomatoes and stuff. I like to form my own opinions. I've always said that. I form my own opinions. But with these movies, cause I'll be the one to say it. I was the one, I was one of those people defending the last movie, X Men Apocalypse. I thought the movie was okay. This movie, this movie, man, for this to be the last movie that we get in Fox's X Men universe, it's very disappointing. It is terrible. I don't know why they decide to make this movie, and I think a lot of the blame has to go on Simon Kinberg. I believe the budget for this might have been 200 million. I might have to fact check that, but I believe that's how much it was. And y'all gave it to this guy who I believe, judging off of what I read earlier, what I saw on Wikipedia, and I know Wikipedia ain't exactly the most trustworthy, thing to go on, but I think he's like a first-time director. I know he's produced a lot of the X Men movies in the past, but he wrote this one. He had a hand in writing this one, and this is his first time directing, I believe, also. And y'all don't let this man back in the director chair. Don't let this man write anything. Just stick to producing, because this movie was terrible. This movie somehow they screwed up the Phoenix once again. And I'm gonna say this as a disclaimer. I guess I've always said this, and I probably said this multiple times in other comic book movie reviews that I've done. It's like I'm someone who has a connection to these superhero characters, and my connection to those characters stems from stems from the cartoons that I used to watch. The cartoons, the movies, the TV shows, stuff like that. But I've never read the comics. But throughout this movie, and then by the end of this movie, so I went to go see this movie with my brother, and he leans over to me. It's like, and I should say this. I'm probably gonna go into spoilers because I'm gonna tell you right now. This movie's terrible. Don't go see it. It's terrible. And a lot of the good stuff you already see in the trailer. The trailer shows you all of the good stuff. I promise you. That scene in the trailer with Magneto and the train, and then they showed off some more footage later on with Magneto shooting a bunch of guns. That's the best part of the movie. All of Magneto's scenes and stuff with what Magneto does with his powers, best part of the movie. You've already seen. I'm telling you, you've seen the best part of the movie. Don't go see it. But yeah, like I was saying, my brother leaned over to me at one point in the movie, like at the end of the movie when spoilers, Jean dies. It's like, oh, so does she always die? Like, did she die in the comics? Like, I'm one of those people that I've always given X Men, Fox's X Men a pass, right? When it comes to being true to like the source material and stuff, because I've always looked at these movies as being not really a superhero movie, and especially back in the day, they they didn't really want to market this movie as a superhero movie. Well, I should say not movie, but like franchise. Like originally, they didn't want to market this franchise as like a superhero franchise. That's why they used to go around. They used to basically go around in the black leather, right? And with this movie, it is just it's terrible on all accounts. We left the movie, so some of my criticisms, and my brother kind of shared the same criticisms also. The movie feels rushed. It feels very rushed. It felt short, but at the same time, like the first part of this movie, like the pacing is terrible. It's like nothing happens within the first let's say 30 minutes or whatever. It takes its time to kind of get the ball rolling, and then when it does, like Jean becomes the Dark Phoenix or whatever. Like she snaps very quickly. It's like from 0 to 100 very quickly. It's like there's no character development when it comes to her, when it comes to any of the characters in this movie. And speaking of that, the characterization, like the characterization's all off, even with Professor Xavier. And I'll say this also, it could also be the performances in here, because I mean, obviously um, Michael Fassbender, James McAvoy, and a few others. They're great actors, but it seemed like in this movie, it felt like people were sleepwalking. It felt like people were just sleepwalking their way through. And I will say, J Law, she did. Let me not call her that. Jennifer Lawrence. I don't know why people call her that, but Jennifer Lawrence, she showed up in this movie, but and that's another problem I've had. So they made her basically the de facto leader. Like she's the leader. Why she's the leader? Why is she the leader? It's supposed to be Scott. I mean, I get that he's young. I get he's very young in this movie, but it's like she's not supposed to be part of the X-Men. But I'm getting sidetracked. She shows up in this movie, so like Jennifer Lawrence, a lot of people don't really like her, especially in this movie, and especially in the last few movies and stuff. But she does a better job in the movie in the sense that she's not like sleepwalking her way through it a bit. I mean, like I said, the performances are everywhere. But she has this one line in this movie that just made me go, "Oh my freaking god!" I said it out very loud, and I know people heard me, but I was like, okay, so there's this one line in the movie. She says something like, "All the women are doing the job." She says something like, "All the women are doing all the work. We should be called ex-women," or something like that. It's a very stupid line, and just another time that Hollywood is trying to push this feminism thing. But that's not even the biggest problem with this movie, man. It's just, I mean, this movie was terrible on all accounts. The action in this movie, like I said, the best parts of this movie, even when it comes to just using the powers and stuff in the spectacle, it all comes from Magneto. And then just getting into the villain in this movie. First of all, I don't even think they told the name of the villain. Like, I don't even think they gave the villain a name. Like, they didn't really explain much about the aliens in the movie. And I believe the comic books. Like I said, I don't read the comic books. I've never read the comic books, but from what I've heard, from what I've seen online and stuff, ain't all this supposed to be taking place in outer space? We go in outer space like the first part of the movie for like maybe like 10 minutes, not even that long maybe, but the movie, they don't they don't explain the villain's motivations enough. It's not really clear. They don't give the villains an actual like name and stuff. Like the aliens were just one dimensional. They're just there to service the plot. They're just there to be the antagonist. That's it. I don't know what else to say about the villains. Like people were complaining about Apocalypse, and I'll still defend this movie. Like I'll still defend that movie. I'll still defend it because at least Apocalypse, like he's not supposed to be this deep character, but at least he had a purpose. At least he had a plan. At least there was something about his character. Like there was a character there. There's no characters. Like when it comes to the villains, they're just, I don't even know what to call it. They're like, why? Why are y'all even there? They don't explain anything. They barely explain it. They explain the fact that okay, they were following them and they were after some energy source or whatever, and Jean, she absorbs the energy force that they were after, and then basically the main villain, Alien, she's after the energy source, but I guess she wants to. I guess they want to like repopulate their civilization on Earth they want to basically continue their race or something like that. But then it's like, okay, well, what happened to your race? What happened to your people? Like, why were y'all out there in space? Like, they don't go into any detail. Like, it's just terrible. It's just terrible. It's like they barely tried with this one. And Jean's powers, they gotta figure out, like, how did y'all screw this up again? Like, I don't know what her powers were. Like, by the end of the movie, she's like disintegrating people and stuff, and like she turns a pole into water, into like she's like manipulating matter or whatever. It's like, what are you doing? What is her powers? Like, what's going on? So like every part of this movie is just garbage. The editing was terrible. It would just go from one scene to the next. Like I said, I mentioned the poor pacing and stuff. I mentioned that it felt very rushed. Honestly, there really isn't much good to say about this. There really isn't much good to say about this. The villain was horrible. It's the worst villain. I don't care what anybody says. I almost say this movie, almost say like it's not even one of those movies that's so bad it's good. Like you can watch it and enjoy it and laugh at it. It's just dull, and it was just like it was going through the motions. Just like I feel like a lot of the actors, like I said, I feel like a lot of the actors were just kind of sleepwalking through it. And again, I said, Jennifer Lawrence, she kind of perked up for this one because she kind of acted like she didn't want to be there, in the last few movies or whatever. But even then, it's still terrible. It's terrible. I don't know what else to say. It's a trash movie. There's nothing good about this outside of Magneto using his powers and stuff. I mean, I'm trying to think. Is there any other positive thing about this movie? Because I don't think there is. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know why did y'all make this? It was it was garbage. It's unneeded, and honestly, it's time for Marvel to reboot it. I hate to get on that train, but it's time for Marvel to reboot it, and it's a shame that this series had to go out on such a negative, on such a low note, right? Because the movies have been good. The movies have been good. We've had great movies in the franchise. Whether or not they stuck closely to the source material and stuff like that. I mean, just throughout this movie, I'm just like, why is why is Nightcrawler over here? Like this all takes place in 1990, like 1992 or whatever. And like why? So like Nightcrawler, and y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Nightcrawler the son of is he the son of Mystique? And like if he's the son of Mystique, he can't be that age. Like there's a lot of inconsistencies, and I know it's the Fox universe that's kind of screwed up when it comes to the timeline and stuff like that. But this movie, I couldn't ignore it. There's just so much wrong with it. But yeah, I can go on just talking about this crap forever. But man, this is terrible. This is terrible. Don't waste your money. Don't see this movie. Um, just watch the trailer a few times and you'll get your fill, because honestly, the good stuff was in the trailer. They reshot this movie, and I don't know if they confirmed this. It was kind of a rumor out there that reshoots and stuff. They reshot the ending. I believe they reshot the ending because they said it was too close to they said it was too close to another superhero movie, and so they wanted to reshoot the ending because I think they said like the audience didn't like it or whatever in the test screening or whatever. But yeah, like, and I just noticed something now that I'm thinking about it. Quicksilver, he kind of disappears at one part in this movie. Like at one half of this movie, like at the first part of this movie, Quicksilver is there, but then throughout, I want to say maybe like the middle half to like the end of the movie or whatever, he's gone. They're just, man, this movie's terrible. I'm out of here. This movie, I don't even have to give it a score. I mean, if I had to give it a score, I'd give it a five. I'd give it a 5 out of 10. Like this movie is like, I would say it's worse than Origins, because at least Origins is fun to watch. At least the first part of Origins, like it starts off strong. The first part of Origins, there's a lot to like. This movie, it was just trash. It was just garbage. Like this didn't need to be made. Like I said, don't go out and watch this. This is a waste of time. And it's time for Marvel to reboot it, man. It's time. All right, I'm out of here. Peace.